afternoon, Mr. Fleming. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Fine. So you've come up from the Detroit area to Flint. What are you going to be talking about today?
I'm going to be talking about branding, and it's really about storytelling and helping people to make an emotional connection to the ideas and the things that they're working on. Because I think that's important. People don't buy products or buy services just because it's a good idea. There has to be something that people can connect to. It has to be relevant to them. And so it's really about getting people to think about the why and not just the what.
So are you focusing more on entrepreneurs?
So we're going to do both. So we're going to talk about entrepreneurs having their own brand because, again, they're the face of the company. Mm-hmm. But also we're going to talk about business brands because they're going to be the ones running the company. And so again, I want to give people a perspective of if they have a business, that business has a personality. It is an entity. And you have to think about all of the elements that go into really trying to develop something that's sustainable. At the end of the day, what happens is that entrepreneurs typically are heads down, they're working on the idea, they're focused, and they don't always spend a lot of time thinking about the identity or thinking about the things that once you get out there and you have this great idea, but you haven't secured the digital real estate or the identity, then those things become very difficult to try to do on the back end.
Absolutely. So you advise them to do that synonymously with their work or starting it before? So
if someone is starting a business and they have an idea, we would want to walk them through a process of going online and just seeing what else is out there. So they're going to do their due diligence. So we want them, if you have a certain name in mind, we want you to think about, okay, all right, is that a name that's ownable, right? Is it something where there's a lot of people who have the exact same name because you want to be able to stand out? Can you buy can you get the digital real estate? Can you secure the social network handles with it? Can you own the conversation in that area online? And begin to think about all those things so that even if you don't start running that business immediately, securing those assets because those are assets. And lots of times we don't think about it that way. We can think about the business idea, but if you look at Coca-Cola, if they had no inventory and if all their facilities burned down and they had nothing but a logo, their trademark, right, and their recipe, they could go secure billions of dollars just based on those assets. And so as the entrepreneur, I want entrepreneurs to think the same way because in many cases, if you look in the United States, a lot of what we have is our intellectual capital.
Absolutely. So we're in Flint today. Mm-hmm. What do you think about what's going on in Flint? The water crisis.
When I think about Flint, prior to the water situation happening, I didn't even think about water in the way I do today.
Absolutely.
Because we would say gold is, or some kind of precious metal is extremely valuable. When you start thinking about a bare necessity like water and what it would take to wash up if you have to use bottled water and you have to heat up the bottled water, and then, how many bottles of water does it take to take a bath? You're going to have the water level this low, right? Is daddy going to take a bath first, and then the kids, and then the wife? Are you going to reboil? Just doing that alone. Just think about the amount of time that's consumed just doing that.
Absolutely.
And so when I began to think about that, it just made me think about, we live in a country where there is no lack of resources. There's not a lack of water here. There's not a lack of food, even though we send food to Africa. We have more of a distribution problem, and we have all these assets or resources that are not managed properly. And so, but when I look at it, it always seems to happen to people that have less means.
Right.
Because this doesn't happen in Oakland County.
Absolutely. I was going to say, in Oakland County specifically, it's one of the richest counties in the country, and in certain cities in that county, you know. And then, of course, on the east side, there's Grosse Pointe or whatever. Those people would not tolerate it.
Absolutely. You've nailed it. And I think that, you know, when you look at a situation to where if you don't have a political voice, you don't have an economic voice,
Right.
then what happens is that these are the kind of situations that happen. But it's not like as African Americans, we don't have economic resources. I mean, we spend enough to be, I guess, I don't know if it's the ninth largest country. I can't remember like what the number is. But in terms of how do we pull this stuff together? I think there are things where there has to be some kind of collaboration between government, private sector, those kind of things. But also, even as business owners of color, we have to support each other's business.
Yes.
In certain communities, the dollar turns over 21 times.
Yes.
Right?
I've
You
had
know.
this conversation. In our community, the dollar goes right out of our community.
Yeah, I mean, it's because we value everything else. Everyone else's water is colder. And I think back to, even though I wasn't born then, I think back to prior to integration, to where integration had nothing to do with racial equality at all. It was all about the economics.
Access too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and so, but prior to that, we supported our own businesses because we had no
Yes.
choice.
Yes.
But we did. And once we found out that we could go and buy somebody else's products and services, then we just kind of left ours. And I think that's something that's kind of stayed with us.
Well, yeah, that, and then too, I think some of the business owners in our community started taking advantage of the customers, not giving the proper service, taking our customers for granted. And I think we have to build listen to me talking, what do I know, but I think we have to build from the inside out with some of our businesses too.
So I'm doing a project in Detroit called Rebrand Detroit.
Yes.
And so I pitched an idea to the Knight Foundation. And I said, in Midtown Detroit, there's density, development, there's growth, there's activity, there's vibrancy. But if you go about a mile each way, east or south, it falls off, right? And I said, can we bring some of that to a neighborhood? So now we're working with business owners so that we can try to get them to think about how to package and tell their stories. We're doing a part where we're trying to get 100 businesses that are offline online, because 55% of businesses in the United States, small businesses, have no website. 53% of them are cash only. And so we're trying to think about things where we can move the needle. But one of the other things that we do is that we have vendors that we're using that look like us, right? Because I can't tell somebody else, well, you should go use this person or use this business. Now, you still have to be excellent, but we have to model the behavior that we're telling everyone else. So we have great videographers. We have people who do web development, and they're women. They're students. They're people of color. And so we want to be able to show the world, look, we can eat our own dog food.
Absolutely.
And we have people that can do quality work. It's not going to be second tier work because we're not going to tolerate that either. And so I think that's what it's about, to where we really have to, work together.
What do you think of the Urban Entrepreneurship Initiative?
I think it's a great initiative. I think, you have somebody like David Tarver, who's a respected business leader, who's paid his dues. He's not doing this to get rich.
Right.
He's not doing this because he's trying to collect a check. And so I believe his motives are pure in terms of going back to his hometown and really trying to be a catalyst to be able to help the city out. And I think in every neighborhood and in every city, you have a certain catalyst that does that. And I'm very hopeful that this will be a catalyst that can be a turning point that we'll look back over time and say, you know what, this kind of helped to move the ball forward to get us beyond just water, right? Because at the end of the day, if all we're doing is providing aid, it's just like Africa, right? I mean, we can give them grain, we can give them shoes, but if we don't teach them economic development,
Right.
20 years, 30 years down the road, it's going to be the same thing.
What's that saying? You teach a person to do
Fish,
something.
yeah.
and
Absolutely.
they'll never go hungry.
Yes.
Right,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Well, thank you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the time.
And good luck.
All right.
Good luck.
All right.
I have a lot of faith in you.
Absolutely. I'm gonna do my part. I'm gonna do my part for sure. So.
I know.